All right,
Okay.
now we're live.
Okay. That's that's true. Hi Mukhtar. Hi Treasure.
Hello.
Hi, sir.
How are you doing today?
Doing all right. Can't
Doing
complain.
good.
Ready to get this show on the road. All right. Do we have
Awesome.
people?
Awesome. Yeah. So, should we wait for a couple people to join, or should we just get right into it?
I think we can get right into it. People are gonna join. But otherwise we can start with the questions that people have asked before. So let's do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So, just like a quick summary. Today, we're going to be answering questions related to job search. So, a couple people come into your DMs and they ask questions from past shows concerning job search, interviews, resumes. And so, we're just going to answer all those questions now. And lucky for us, we have Treasure. Yay. We have
Yay.
Treasure as an added guest, too.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, Treasure is like
We
our
have Treasure.
superstar. Yeah.
Treasure is a wonderful PM career coach. I'm going to give her the stage to introduce herself. So, Treasure, do you want to tell us who you are and what you do?
All right. Hi, everyone. So, my name is Treasure, and I am a PM career coach. I have a lot of experience in the project management space. I've worked different industry ranging from edutech to the finance space, majorly handling multiple projects. And now I'm finding myself, training as well as helping other individuals to land that role and land that job. And it's just an exciting and a really fulfilling journey end to end. So that's pretty much it about me.
Welcome, Treasure. Also, we're so excited to have you. And I'm very sure everybody is too. So, for the sake of righteousness, Mukhtar, do you want to introduce yourself to those who are just joining for the first time, newcomers to this live onto your page?
Yeah, so hi everyone. I am Mukhtar and I am also a career coach. And in addition to being a career coach, I'm also a practicing PM. And I've been doing this for 15 years, about 15 years. So I really enjoy teaching and coaching, and that's why I do this. So glad to glad to be here.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so let's get right into it. We already have some people joining in saying hi. Hi, Woodlyn. But let's like hop into some
Hi.
questions. Okay, so the first question says, what advice would you give to someone transitioning into project management with no prior experience or coming from a completely different background?
Okay. If somebody has no prior experience, so there are a couple of things, right? So I think one thing that I see a lot is that many people do have experience, and you just need to probe and interrogate that, right? Um, so a lot of times people might not have had the project manager title, but they've led projects, like they've led initiatives that were finite. There was a start date, end date, and then there was a particular outcome, right? So it could be like, all right, there's this particular process in your department that's giving a lot of that's just causing a lot of headache, and then you were just tasked with, okay, just figure things out and let's just make this easier. Like that is a process, a project. That's a process improvement project, right? So what I will challenge that person is to just go back into your career history and look for those type endeavors that you've done, right? And then when you identify those, now it's time to package it up as a project, use project management language, right? And then that counts as experience, right? So I guess that would be my first thing to do, is don't discount your experience, look for project experience, and then now use that to position yourself properly, right? Now, if somebody doesn't have any experience at all, right? So what I would do is I would start to look for projects that I can take on, right? It could be personal projects. It could even just be, projects. Maybe you have your top 15 companies. You can start to just sort of research where you think their pain points are, and even start a mock project. Like a lot of these AI tools can help you with that. Like you can do research, find out, look at their quarterly earnings, calls, because a lot of public companies every quarter they have to, the CEO and leadership, they have to just sort of give a report on what is happening with the company, what are their challenges, what are the next priorities, and all of that. So a lot of those earnings calls are, they're like a gold mine that have a lot of good information there. So you can take those, understand what are the CEO priorities, and then start to see what you can do on your own. So that can be one source. Another source could be just using their products, looking at feedback on Google, on the App Store, on the Android store, and just look at what are people saying, like what's coming up again and again and again, right? And then you can just take it upon yourself to do some research, and maybe come up with a mock project, and then send that to somebody on the inside, somebody who leads project or product or engineering, right? And see what they have to say, right? So these are ways that you can start to create your own experience, right? That's my take on this. So if you're experienced, I would first challenge you to just take a look at your experience, to identify project experience. If you're not experienced, then I would say take it upon yourself to do a personal project.
Yeah, and just to add a bit to what Mukhtar just said, I think one thing you really need to also focus on is, joining a community, because it's very scary trying to navigate the PM space. Where do I start from? What do I do? It's easy when you have a community of people. So you can join a community, you can attend webinars, you can volunteer. These are like really small ways to just build your portfolio, build your confidence as a project manager. And something that also generally helps is, trying to get certifications. So you can start really small and then, start to get the bigger ones like the CAPM, the PMP as well. So there are a number of certifications you can do to achieve. But if you want to start really small, even Google, Coursera, there are courses you can actually go on and begin to learn. So these are really small ways that you get to, build a career from someone that has no prior experience to, slowly advancing into an expert in the PM space. Just wanted to add that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Based off what you both said, I can, like, you gave very practical examples to anyone like early in the PM space, and I think one thing I picked up mostly was kind of looking back at your experience and looking back at projects that you've managed, because I'm sure there are lots of people who don't even know that, that's actually very relevant to applying for a project management role. So yeah, that's amazing. So just a follow-up question. Gaurav asked, what do you suggest for someone new getting into this PM field? And would Coursera course help step in? So I guess like related to this, it would be like, do you have any Coursera courses in mind that you feel are relevant to early
Yeah.
PMs?
Treasure, you want to take that?
Okay, so there are quite a number of courses on Coursera. You have, there are some of them that are very structured, that can be in leadership and communications. You have others that talk about just project management in general, getting started in project management. You have courses that talk about stakeholder engagement and vendor management. You have courses that talk about communications. So they are majorly niched, And then you still have some that are general based. For the project management courses, like I said, getting started in project management, your what's the other one called? Um, your journey into project management, how to be a good project manager. So these are courses that you can find on Coursera. I'm just going to find the names of the individuals that take the courses, and probably I'll drop it on the chat as well. Okay.
Yeah. And just to add to that, like you can also see there's so many courses. You can also see like the reviews, and maybe that can also help guide as to which ones to take. But there are a lot of project management courses. I think there is the agile project management course by Atlassian on Jira. That's there. I think you have the Google one. The IBM is also there as well, and these are popular ones, right? Awesome.
Yeah, great. And I would also chip in that I've come across a couple of posts on Mukhtar's page of free courses related to the PM space that you could definitely take. So yeah. So we have another question from Emeka, also related to something Treasure said. Certifications or experience? When, why, and how do we prioritize one over the other?
That's a really good question. So this is something that comes up again and again, and because I speak to about 2 to 3 PMs every day, and many people think that, all right, the reason that I'm not getting a job is because I don't have a PMP, so they go get a PMP. But what I end up seeing is that people go get the PMP and then they're still in the same spot where they were before, right? So I'm not saying that the PMP is not important. I think the PMP is very valuable, but if your problem is I'm having difficulty getting a job, I would say, okay, let's troubleshoot, right? Do you have a proper job search strategy in place? Are you doing targeted applications? Are you networking with decision makers in your top companies? Do you have a social media strategy, right, in this crazy job market? If you're doing all of those things and you're still not getting good feedback, then I'll say, okay, yes, you can consider doing job search strategy. So I think what I see a lot of times is that people just end up, they quickly prioritize education and certification as a way to solve they are not getting a job, right? Whereas a lot of the times they don't have a good job search strategy, right? So I hope that that answers that question.
Yeah, totally. That's an amazing response. Treasure, do you have something to add to what Mukhtar said?
Okay, so when it comes to certification and experience, I think I like to look at it from the angle of what the actual problem is. Are you just starting out in the PM space? Are you in the PM space, but you are not, moving up the career ladder? Or have you been in one position for a long period of time and you're looking to move to the next point? So I think these are the things that, you need to start considering when talking about certification or experience. So if you're just starting out in the PM space, there are quite a number of things that can help you upskill. So if it comes to certification, sometimes it's not necessarily like going for the big ones. Like I said, start small. Start with some of the free courses. And as you're starting with the free courses, if you can also prioritize volunteering, it might not be on a large scale, but working on personal projects, you start to pick up the little skills that you need to know. In terms of also going through these free courses, you get to learn the language, the terms. So there are certain things that people would now begin to hear from you. You're talking about doing it the agile way. You're talking about making use of Jira. You're talking about how to lead meetings. So, before you can actually start, making use of your certification, you also have the ability to walk through volunteering projects and really small projects. So to answer specifically when, why, and how, for the when, I think the right time to do certification experience is really dependent on what your problem is at that particular time. Are you starting out? Are you looking to upskill? So that's when it will determine if you need to go for a certification or if you need to get more experience in the role you're going to. Why is also particularly in line with that answer as well. What your problem is at the moment and how do you go about it? For certifications, you can start small with the free courses. You can then move on to get actual certification like the PMP, the CSM, that's or SAFE. There are different project management certification depending on the type of industries that you're working in. How do you get to do it? For experience, like I said, volunteering, you can reach out to PM communities, you can intern. These are some of the ways to just move yourself from one point where you are to the next level.
Awesome. Also, those were practical tips, and that was an amazing response. So
Yeah, much
we
better
have
than my own.
another question. That was very practical. That was like step to step on what to do. That was amazing response. Um, yeah, so we have this other question. It seems like a threefold question. And I can also see that it's very related to a lot of the questions here. So I'll just take it, maybe I'll take it one by one. Given the current job market in Canada, what are the conversion rates like for applicants?
Yeah, that's that's a very good question, but I think there's a lot of nuance there. When you say, because it depends on industry, it depends on how you are applying, it depends on what companies you're applying to. Um, I would say that there are jobs. I mean, we're seeing people that are interviewing, right? But I guess one way to one way to address this is maybe what can you do to increase your conversion rate? Like when you apply, how can you increase your conversion rate? So there are a few things that you can do. So first of all, you want to apply to roles where you have a where you're a good fit, like 75% match or above. That's one. The second is you want to apply to a role very early, right? So 1 week or less, even 24 hours would be great. Like, a job comes out, you can set up your filters where you look at what jobs have come out the past 24 hours, right? Um, the other thing is that after you now apply, even before we go to after you apply, when you apply, you tailor your resume and your application to suit the job, and then after you apply, you reach out to three people in the company: the recruiter, the hiring manager, and maybe somebody in senior leadership. And then if you don't hear back, you follow up in a few days, right? So what we've seen is that when people do this, they tend to have a higher conversion rate, right? Because it's a very competitive market. You can't just apply and expect a good conversion rate, right? So it's about following that workflow. Apply to roles that you're a good fit for, apply early, tailor your resume, follow up, and then send a networking message and then follow up if you don't hear back. All right. So I hope that answers the question on conversion rate. Is the market actually hiring? Yes, but it's a competitive market, but we are seeing people interviewing beyond the. Yeah, so I hope that answered the question, right?
Yeah. So your first response kind of answered like the entire question, talking about like more high impact strategies that can help improve the chances of landing a role, like networking with people in the company and then shooting them a message. So yeah.
Yeah.
Um
All right.
Related to that as
Yeah, I
well.
just
Okay, sure, treasure.
want to chime in the second aspect of the question, which says, sorry, can you bring that up back up? Is the market
Yeah.
actually hiring or is it an illusion? So, for a fact, I can categorically say that the market is actually hiring. PMs get jobs every other day. Like, based off research, it is stated that by 2030, we would have over 80 million PMs in the world. So there are roles coming up each and every day, and it keeps coming and coming. But when it comes to actually applying and getting feedback, it's just looking at it from different angle. What are you doing correctly? What can you improve on? What's your bottleneck? Is it your resume? Is it your interview? Are you networking correctly? Are you applying correctly? That actually fits in, or sort of spills over to the type of feedback and responses you're getting, in terms of probably rejection means or not hearing back. But I know of about 20 to 30 PMs that have gotten job over the course of, from January to now, all in Canada. So I think it's not an illusion that the market is hiring. It really just depends on, what you currently have or what you're churning out to the market. So it kind of affects the type of results that you're getting. So to improve your chances, like I said, look at it from three angles. How are your resumes right now? Is it tailored to the JD, or are you just using a general resume for 10 different JDs? It affects the type of response you're getting. In your interviews, how do you actually respond to questions? That's something you might need to look at. Are you networking properly as well? That's also something to, have a look at. So if you can improve on this, I'm sure it will, improve your chances in general of landing a job. So yeah, that's my thought process.
Awesome. That's a wonderful take on that question. So we actually have a couple of people coming in with the same um topic. So people are saying that the job market is so tough. Another says that the PM space is so demanding. Just to concept, like to put them all in a category. Um, have you noticed any new job trends or um, job search trends in the PM space? Or do you have any predictions for 2025? And why is it so challenging to get PM jobs right now?
Yeah. So I think, yeah, let me take a stab at this. I think that yes, the job market is really tough. I think there are lots of things happening. Some people are saying there's a market correction after COVID. If you're in Canada, there's the tariff situation with the US, right? Yeah, so there are just lots of things that are happening. Yeah, so some people even say that this job market is as tough as the one we had in 2008, right? um yeah, so in terms of I think, yeah, in terms of why is this so tough, I think it's because of the macroeconomic conditions. But I will say that companies still exist. Companies are not going out of business, and companies still have problems that they need to be solved, right? That's why you would still see jobs that are out there. Like, for example, this week I did a post where there were 10 companies, many of them like really big brand name companies, that posted remote PM roles in the past 24 hours, right? And these were just 10. Like, and I just went for, and these are just remote roles, right? And remote roles are even fewer than hybrid and on-site roles, because the trend is going towards on-site and hybrid, right? So companies are still hiring. What I would say is that you just need to out compete the competition, right? Companies are still hiring. So how can you position yourself better than the other people? And I've said this before, but the hiring decision is a buying decision. So you can imagine you're about to buy a house. You do your due diligence before you actually buy the house, right? You have about $500,000 you're going to spend on this house, right? You're gonna really make sure that the house is worth that investment. The same thing goes for hiring decision, and especially now that there's so many people on the job market. Like, companies feel like, okay, they want to really make sure that they make the best decision, and that they're not going to regret that decision, right? So what you need to do is you need to show them that you're going to be the best investment. You need to show them what the returns will be, right? And the way you do that is, how do you position yourself in the interviews? Do you look at the job description, identify what their top 5 pain points are, and then show how things that you've done in your experience fit each one of those top 5 pain points, right? So, for example, if one of the pain points is they're looking for somebody that can do complex project management, you say, okay, I have 5 years experience managing complex projects, right? Or even better, I have 5 years experience managing complex projects in the 10 to $15 million range, right? If they're looking for somebody that has like great stakeholder management experience, I successfully led a project with 500 stakeholders in a 3-year period, right? So you basically are giving data for each of their 5 pain points, right? So you do that with your resume, you do that in your interviews, and you can even do like some people do a deck, like you can just do a deck saying, okay, this is why I'm the best candidate for this role. This is what I know about your company. And this is my 30, 60, 90-day plan when I get hired, right? So these are ways to position yourself as the best investment that the company can make for that role.
Okay, just to add a bit to that, I think another aspect that a lot of people have come to me with is AI going to take over my PM role? I think that's a question that is running through a lot of people's mind. And I think the best way to get ahead of it is, if you can't if you don't know how to make use of AI automation tools, you are going to be at a very strong disadvantage. So I think it's the great time for you to embrace AI. Make sure that you have an understanding of how to make use of it, and then add it to your already established skills. Because you know what AI and automation tools make your PM role look like? It makes it faster, it makes you more productive. Something that's supposed to take an actual PM without like AI automation or automation tools like an hour, you can get it done in 30 minutes, you can get it done in 20 minutes. It just adds to, your entire package in terms of your portfolio, because when you are explaining or when you're talking or when you even add that to your CV, it gets the interest of both the recruiters and hiring manager. Another thing to look at, just like Mukhtar said, is how you position your resume, because your resume is something that goes ahead of you. You're not going to have to explain your resume will do the talking for you. So you have to make sure that each word is tailored to the requirements of the JD, because if you're not tailoring right, it's just going to bounce off, especially if it's going through an ATS system. So keywords are very, very important. If they're asking for specific requirements and you have that, you have to position yourself. And another thing I love in the resume is giving metrics. Metrics just gives value to your resume. So you said you have worked with different stakeholders. How many stakeholders? You said you've worked with a cross-functional team. In what countries? If you state those, it just gives your resume a different type of boost and a different type of look and feel, which I think it generally just improves the outlook for it. So yeah, those just generally improves your chances of landing a role, especially in such a dynamic space like the PM space. Okay.
Awesome. So related to what you said about the resume, someone just asked the question, can you share few good resume builder tools that are cheaper in subscription to tailor a target resume?
Okay, so there are quite a number of them out there, but when it comes to resume builders, I think one thing that you should be very mindful of is when making use of tools, you should also be careful of the language. So I'm gonna state like specific tools that I think are really good for resume building. Funny enough, ChatGPT is a good resume builder, but you just need to know how to tweak it in a way that it gives you the right information. ChatGPT is garbage in, garbage out. But once you have the garbage out, you now have to make use of your own human knowledge to refine the information to make it more give it a more human feel rather than the whole AI generated information you have on there, to make sure that it passes the ATS system. So you have a couple of others like Taylor CV, you have some called read me CV. So those are really good tailoring CVs, tailoring resume tools that you can use when applying for jobs. But specifically, I think looking ahead of tools, one thing that's really good for tailoring is just making sure that when you have the JD, boil down the JD to the top 10 pain points. Once you have the top 10 pain points, you can actually build a really good resume based off that information. So each of your bullet points will be directed to answering the requirements of the JD, and it just gives your resume the more efficient and productive look that the ATS system or recruiter is looking for. So that would be my recommendation.
That's awesome. Mukhtar, do you have any thoughts on this question?
Yeah, no, I don't have anything to add. I think Treasure handled it well.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're kind of there are a couple of questions here, but we're kind of behind, or we the time is far spent. But if you can answer one more question, that would
For
be
sure.
really cool.
Yeah, let's do
Okay.
one more.
Yeah. So I guess this is more like a thought turned question relating to what Treasure mentioned about AI. So Emeka has a thought. The main output of a project is a product end or a service. I feel like most IT PMs will most likely gravitate towards the product space. I'm prioritizing moving towards agile and safe methods and also ML. Do you think I'm on the right path? I feel AI is the next thing. My end goal is to be an AI PM. So
That's a really interesting. That's a really interesting point. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot to unpack there, but here is what I think. So I think that project management has been around for a while. Product management is a newer field. Um, and I mean, like product management as we know it right now, like in the tech space, right? Although before that, there were other people, maybe BAs were acting as product managers, right? But as we know it now as a discipline, it's a relatively new field. So that's one thing that I would say. The other thing that I would say is that even in many of the tech companies, product and program slash project, they exist. There is overlap, but they coexist. And where I have seen, and the way I tend to see them coexisting is that so product managers are usually specialized in their product, right? So they know their product deep, they know their customers, right? Um, Program and project, they work cross functionally and they might even work with several product managers, right? So I don't necessarily see one replacing the other, right? Because you need somebody who's gonna go deep. Like, I mean, any product that you're using, for example, um, let's say LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a product, right? So there are different features within LinkedIn, and the different features will probably have different product managers. So maybe LinkedIn messaging. I'm just making stuff. I'm not quite sure how they categorize it. LinkedIn inbox. There might be a product manager for LinkedIn inbox. There might be a product manager for um, maybe the algorithm. There might be a product manager for LinkedIn learning, right? So there are all these different, and those product managers, they need to specialize in their product in order for them to be for them to be very competitive and to be one of the best social media platforms out there, right? But then there are initiatives that need to happen that affect all products, right? Or that would make use of several products together, or that would affect, maybe three products. And for that, you would need somebody who's gonna sit in between. I think that's where project and program managers really come in, right? So um yeah, so that's my thought on that. Like I don't really see that one would replace the other. I think that both of them can coexist. Yeah.
awesome. Treasure, do you want to say anything on this as well?
Okay, for me, I align with what Mukhtar just said. So I don't think, um, either going to stay as a product PM or moving into AI PM is, specifically dependent on need, because I feel if you have a particular niche, even if it's IT, construction PM, or AI PM, if you have value to continuously give, you would make headway, you'd become a master in your own field. So sometimes job hopping might not necessarily be a good thing. In the same sense, it can be a good thing, but it's for you to have an understanding of where you want to be and where you want to stay and make yourself a master of your craft. Once you master your craft and you become so valuable in your own space and in your own field, you get to do amazing things. So whether you move or you stay, just make sure that you have a good understanding of what you're able to do and achieve, and make sure you put in the work to actually become the best that you can be in AIPM, ITPM, whichever you choose to do. So that would just be my take on it.
That's an awesome response. So we're already 5 minutes far from the time we're going to end. Thank you so much, Treasure, and thank you so much, Mukhtar, for your insights on these questions. There's so many questions coming in. I'll definitely like note these questions down for the next Ask Me Anything going up. But just so we close, do you have any quick or just like a quick tip or food for thought for everyone that joined this live?
Yeah, no, I mean, thank you all for joining. I would just say that I see a lot of the comments talking about the job market. Yeah, it is tough. Um, Hang in there. Just make sure that you, um, yeah. So find community. That's what I would really, because this is the when you're in between jobs, many people say this is one of the most stressful experiences of their life. Like, some people is even as stressful as getting a divorce, right? So it's really important to, to take care of yourself and just find community. Like, that's one. Have a plan, have a strategy, and um, find people that understand the job search market, right? Yeah, and that have helped people, land jobs, right? It's yeah, yeah. So that's what I would say. Community. Just find people who have done this before, and just take care of yourself, because it's tough. You don't want to get burnt out, right? Yeah.
Okay, so for me, um, when it comes to job search, there's a very funny statement that always comes up in my mind. Finding a job, it's a job in itself. Like looking for a job is an actual job, and it can be very stressful, overly stimulating, and entirely sometimes very downcasting. But I think basically what just helps you put your head above water is sometimes don't be so heavily dependent on applications. And I think that's one mistake that a lot of people do. You're overly focused on applying. Today you're doing 10 applications, tomorrow you're doing 10 applications. At some point, you get burnt out. That's one thing. Another thing is churning out so many applications or churning out so many resumes and applications can get really tiring. So I would recommend that you try to alternate between applying, between also building your social media presence. Like if you really want to get a job, how is your LinkedIn profile looking at the moment? There are things you need to have a rethink. Do you have a project portfolio? These are things you basically need to work on that has effects generally on what you do as a project manager. So if you work on this, it just increases your chances of landing a really good role. So that's my thought on this.
Awesome. Yes, I totally agree with what you said. That food of thought was very relatable. So we've come to the end of the live. Thank you so much for joining in, everyone, and thank you so much, Mukhtar and Treasure, for your insights. Um, yeah, thank you so much for joining in on the live, and we hope to see you for our next AMA that would be posted on Mukhtar's page. So definitely give Mukhtar a follow and Treasure as well if you want to keep up with them on LinkedIn. All right.
Thank you all.
So
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone, and bye.